Emily Carter stepped out of Massey General Hospital with slow, measured steps. 12 hours in the emergency department had left her shoulders tight and her mind buzzing with unfinished thoughts. The fluorescent lights still flickered in her vision as the heavy hospital doors closed behind her. She adjusted the one strap of her bag and checked her phone. 2 missed calls from her landlord. 1 reminder about her student loan payment. A text from her younger brother, "Sis, don't forget mom's meds this weekend." Emily exhaled slowly. Money was always tight. Her salary covered rent and little else. She often picked up extra shifts, skipped meals, and postponed replacing her cracked phone screen because someone else's emergency always seemed more urgent than her own. But she never complained, because helping wasn't something she did for recognition. It was simply what she did. The sidewalks shimmered faintly with leftover rain that had frozen into thin sheets of invisible ice. Holiday lights were being strung across storefronts, their cheerful glow clashing with the grey sky overhead. People hurried by in expensive coats, clutching coffee cups and briefcases. Emily tucked her hands into her thin jacket pockets and started walking toward the bus stop 3 blocks away. That's when she heard it. A sharp gasp, then the unmistakable sound of a body hitting pavement. Emily's head snapped toward the noise. Near a luxury boutique, an older woman lay twisted awkwardly on the sidewalk. A designer handbag had spilled its contents, lipstick, gloves, a small leather wallet, onto the icy ground. A small group of pedestrians had formed around her, but they kept a cautious distance. "She just slipped," someone said. "Careful, it's icy," another muttered. A man raised his phone, not to call for help, but to record. Emily didn't think. She ran. "Please step back," she said firmly, her voice cutting through the wind. Years in the emergency room had taught her how to command space without shouting. "Give her air." The crowd shifted. Emily knelt carefully beside the woman, her knees immediately soaking through from melted ice. She noticed the elegant wool coat, the silver hair pinned neatly into place, the pearl earrings glinting under the street light. But status meant nothing in emergencies. Only symptoms mattered. "Mom, can you hear me?" Emily asked gently. The woman's eyelids fluttered open. Her face was pale, but alert. "Yes, I slipped," she whispered, her voice trembling more from shock than pain. "Okay, I'm a nurse. My name is Emily. I'm going to help you." The woman nodded faintly. Emily assessed quickly, no visible head wound, breathing steady, pulse present but slightly rapid. She gently touched the woman's ankle. The reaction was immediate. A sharp inhale. "That's where it hurts," the woman said through clenched teeth. "All right, don't try to move it. An ambulance is on the way," Emily reassured her. Snow began to fall again, light at first, then heavier. Tiny flakes gathered in the woman's hair. Without hesitation, Emily removed her own coat and wrapped it around her. "You'll freeze," the woman protested weakly. Emily smiled, though her fingers were already going numb. "We got layers." It wasn't entirely true. She only wore thin scrubs beneath. The wind bit into her skin, but she ignored it. Instead, she focused on the woman's breathing. "Stay with me. What's your name?" Emily asked. "Margaret," the woman replied after a moment. "That's a beautiful name," Emily said warmly. "Do you live nearby, Margaret?" "A few blocks," she answered. "I thought I could manage." Emily nodded softly. Independence. Pride. She'd seen it many times in elderly patients. "You did manage," Emily said gently. "You just met some bad eyes." Margaret let out the smallest laugh despite the pain. The crowd had mostly dispersed now that the situation seemed under control. The man who had been recording slipped away quietly. A young couple offered to call again for an ambulance, but Emily assured them it was already coming. Minutes stretched. The cold deepened. Emily rubbed Margaret's gloved hands between her own to keep circulation steady. "You must be tired," Margaret observed after a while, studying her closely. "You look like you worked all day." "I have," Emily admitted with a soft chuckle. "And yet you stopped." Emily shrugged slightly. "I always stop." Margaret's sharp grey eyes searched her face. "Why?" It wasn't a question many people asked. Emily thought for a moment. "When I was 16, she began quietly, my father was in the hospital. The nurses were busy, everyone was, but one of them stayed with him for 5 extra minutes. She held his hand when he was scared." She paused, snow landing gently on her eyelashes. "It didn't cost her anything. But it meant everything to him." Margaret listened intently. "So I guess I decided that day, that I'd be that kind of nurse." The sound of distant sirens finally broke through the wind. Relief washed over Emily. The ambulance pulled up, red and blue lights reflecting off glass storefronts. Paramedics stepped out quickly with a stretcher. What do we have? One asked. Female, mid-70s, Emily responded smoothly. Slip on ice. Suspected ankle fracture. No head trauma observed. Vitals stable but slightly tachycardic from shock. The paramedic nodded, impressed. As they carefully lifted Margaret onto the stretcher, she reached out suddenly. Wait, her hand found Emily's. What is your full name? She asked. Emily Carter. Margaret held her gaze, memorizing it. Thank you, Emily Carter. There was something in her tone, something deliberate. Emily squeezed her hand once more. You'll be okay. The ambulance doors closed. The lights disappeared down the street. And just like that, the moment ended. Emily stood alone on the sidewalk, shivering now that adrenaline had faded. Snow clung to her scrubs. Her coat was gone. She picked up Margaret's fallen scarf and handed it to a paramedic before they left. Then she walked toward the bus stop, arms wrapped around herself against the cold. No applause, no reward, no recognition, just another quiet act folded into the rhythm of her life. She didn't know that the woman she had helped was Margaret Whitmore. She didn't know that Margaret was the mother of Daniel Whitmore, one of America's most powerful billionaires. She didn't know that by practicing her simple, steady habit of kindness, she had set something much larger in motion. All Emily knew was this. Someone had fallen, and she had stopped, because habits, once formed in the heart, no longer ask for permission. They simply act. Daniel Whitmore stood at the head of a 12-foot marble table, surrounded by executives in tailored suits. At 42, he was known in business magazines as a visionary, ruthless in negotiations, brilliant with numbers, emotionally distant. A screen behind him displayed projections worth billions. But his mind wasn't there. It was in a hospital room. His phone buzzed quietly in his pocket. He ignored it. Then it buzzed again. His assistant leaned toward him, whispering, "Sir, it's the hospital. It's about your mother." The air shifted instantly. Daniel didn't hesitate this time. "Meeting urgent," he said sharply, grabbing his coat before anyone could respond. 20 minutes later, he rushed through the private wing of Massey General Hospital. The sterile scent of antiseptic stirred memories he rarely allowed himself to revisit, his father's final days, the helplessness, the fear. He pushed open the door. Margaret Whitmore lay in a hospital bed, her ankle elevated and bandaged. She looked smaller than he remembered. Fragile, but her eyes were calm. "Daniel," she said softly. He exhaled, tension breaking through his rigid posture. "What happened?" "I slipped," she replied lightly. "Ice doesn't care about bank accounts." He almost smiled. The doctor explained it was a clean fracture. She'd need rest, but she would recover. Daniel nodded, relief flooding through him in a way no financial victory ever had. When they were finally alone, Margaret studied her son carefully. "You were scared," she observed. "I wasn't," he replied automatically. She raised an eyebrow. He sighed. "I was." She reached for his hand. "There was a nurse," she said gently. "A young woman. She stayed with me in the snow. Gave me her coat." Daniel stiffened slightly. "You were lying on the street alone." "Not alone," Margaret corrected. She made show of that. Daniel listened quietly. "She didn't know who I was," Margaret continued. "She didn't care. She helped because it was natural to her." He absorbed those words slowly. Natural. He had spent years building systems, strategies, acquisitions. But kindness, that had never been part of his measurable assets. "What was her name?" he asked. "Emily Carter." Daniel repeated it silently. "Emily Carter." That afternoon, he did something unusual. Instead of sending flowers, instead of wiring money, instead of instructing his legal team to handle it, he went himself. Back at Massey General, nurses buzzed with whispers when Daniel Whitmore stepped into the hallway. His presence was unmistakable, tall, composed, controlled. He approached the nurse's station. "I'm looking for Emily Carter." Emily was adjusting medication for a patient when she heard her name. Her stomach dropped. Had she made a mistake on a chart? Missed something? She stepped forward cautiously. "I'm Emily." Daniel turned toward her. This was the woman who had stayed in the snow. She didn't look extraordinary. No designer clothes, no polished image, just tired eyes and steady hands. "You helped my mother last night," he said. Recognition flickered in her expression. "Margaret?" she asked softly. "Yes." A quiet pause filled the space between them. "I was just doing my job," she said. Daniel's gaze sharpened. "No, you weren't on shift." She blinked. He continued, "You had already worked 12 hours. You had every reason to walk away." Emily shrugged gently. Someone needed help. The simplicity of her answer unsettled him. He was used to ambition, negotiation, Strategy, not simplicity. Do you know who my mother is? He asked. Emily hesitated. I found out this morning. And it didn't change how you feel. She shook her head. She was cold and in pain. That's all that mattered. For the first time in years, Daniel felt something crack inside his carefully constructed emotional armor. He glanced around the hospital hallway, the worn paint, outdated monitors, exhausted staff moving from room to room without pause. How long have you worked here? He asked. 6 years. And you stay? She gave a small smile. Someone has to. He thought about his company's annual profits. The unused philanthropic budget sitting in spreadsheets. The bonuses awarded to executives who already own private jets. Then he thought about his mother lying on ice, alone, until Emily arrived. It's a habit, Emily said quietly, almost as if finishing his thoughts. Helping. You do it long enough, it becomes automatic. A habit. Daniel understood habits. Markets ran on habits. Investors relied on patterns. But compassion is a system. That was new. What would you change? He suddenly asked her. She looked startled. Change. In this hospital. If you could. Emily hesitated. No billionaire had ever asked her opinion before. More staff, she said carefully. Better equipment in the air. Mental health support for nurses. We burn out fast. She expected him to nod politely and leave. Instead, he said, show me. Within days, Whitmore Global Holdings announced something no one had anticipated. The Margaret Care Initiative, a multi-million-dollar program starting in Chicago, funding under-resourced hospitals, increasing nurse salaries, and investing in emergency response training across the state. Mercy General was first. New equipment arrived. Staffing expanded. Counseling services launched for overworked medical staff. And at the center of it all, Emily Carter. Daniel offered her a leadership role overseeing community care development. She almost refused, until Margaret visited her personally. I built a son who understands numbers, Margaret said warmly. But you reminded him to understand people. Daniel stood beside her, no longer the untouchable CEO, just a man quietly grateful. Emily realized something then. Her habit of helping hadn't just saved one woman. It had shifted a mindset. Changed a system. Sparked something bigger than a single act on a snowy sidewalk. Daniel extended his hand to her. Thank you, he said sincerely. Not as a billionaire. Not as a CEO. But as a son. And as snow began to fall again outside the hospital windows, Emily smiled softly. Because kindness, practiced daily and without expectation, had just rewritten a billionaire's priorities.